Welcome to Brightening Your Corner Ministry. My name is Cindy Ann Lewis Walcott, and we're studying life lessons from the Holy Bible. You don't have to be religious, these lessons are for holistic living. Today's lesson is the last lesson we're going to study in Genesis. It's a powerball of a lesson, it's a lesson in forgiveness. What a beautiful way to end a chapter. And we are going to be studying this lesson in Genesis chapter 50, verses 15 to 21. So we've studied reconciliation before, and so this is more forgiveness because the words were said. The words, forgive us was said. And we're still with Jacob's children. So Jacob's died, and Joseph, the son who's now the governor in Egypt, went up with his other brothers, to bury their dad back in the land of Canaan. And now they came back to Egypt. And the brethren got together and said, you know what? Now that our father's dead, Joseph might start hating us. He might take his revenge on us. And so they sent a messenger to Joseph and said, our father told us to actually say the words of asking you for forgiveness for the evil we've done to you. And Joseph said, you have done evil, but God took it and turned it around to be something good. They had a little chat and they all wept. And it's a beautiful way to end this. And I want to say this, that in families we're gonna have people are gonna irritate us, people are gonna do evil to us, they're gonna do us wrong, and we are going to have to forgive them. We have to forgive them in order to move on. It's sort of taken, when there's lemons thrown at you, you turn it into lemonade. In order to move on, this is what Joseph is saying here, something to the effect of, God took that evil and turned it into good. And something weird happened in my family here. I have my two granddaughters visiting me from Florida, and they always argue and quarrel, and one's older by, I think, 3 or 4 years than the other. So the younger one's always irritating the older one. So I said to her, you have to forgive your sister, and I'm going to tell you a story about how pearls are made. Pearls are made when sand irritates an oyster. So when sand gets under the oyster's skin and or whatever the oyster has, I don't know. When sand get in there and starts irritating the oyster makes mucus and turn that irritant into a nice, smooth something that it can tolerate, which turns out to be a pearl. So I said, you have to learn. So in family situations, we're going to have irritants, we're going to have people who did us wrong within the family, but we have to turn it around. Strangely enough, within a few minutes of me telling them the story and telling them how they have to forgive and learn to tolerate each other, a little bit of disagreement was happening again, and I heard my younger granddaughter saying to the older one, Hazel, remember what Grandma said? Make pearls, Hazel, make pearls. And she said it with such a tone, I think she understood, but I think she was very happy to have an excuse for irritating her sister. But this is not what's happening here. What's happening here is Joseph saying a bad situation was turned around by God's grace. Thank God for that. And in your family, maybe you may not take stock as to what happened. Something may have happened in your family that you're hurt about, but it may have put you in a better place. Because this is the last lesson in Genesis, I'll also tell you another story. About family and why forgiveness and how we have to look more into family and family dynamics and building family relationships, because that's at the end of the day, we're more likely to be supported by our family than by anybody else. I have a cousin, and she told me a story when she was quite young. They were a bit wealthy, and then they had some very, very poor cousins. They didn't look good. They didn't dress good. They didn't eat good. They had, overall, they were abscond because they weren't wealthy. They didn't have what it takes. And she didn't like them because she was very upset that these people would call themselves her relations, her relatives, and because they didn't look anything like her. And she said one day she's just going off quarreling with this person and, chasing them away and talking about how badly things are for them and how, how much the whole place hates them and all. And this person said to her, no matter what you say and no matter how you treat me today, at the end of the day, people are going to look at me and say, I am your relative. And she said to me, from that day on, it struck her like a lightning bolt. And from that day on, she knew what it meant, what family meant. It meant no matter what's happened within the family, whether you're rich or poor, whether you have an argument or not, whether somebody did you wrong or not, as a family member, you have to come together and pull your family up. You have to have reconciliation in families. You have to forgive each other and you have to pull each other up, because at the end of the day, what other people are going to see is the relationship between you and your family. You're tied to your family no matter what. And when you treat them bad, no matter what they did to you, people are going to see you're treating your family bad. And then you might have to go and explain. And then they still might see you both in a bad light. So family is important. Reconciliation is important. Forgiveness. Ask for forgiveness. And if that person that hurt you didn't come to you and say, forgive me, you reach out to them and say, I forgive you, despite what you've done to me. And I say, the lesson is, I would call it, it's never too late for forgiveness. It's never too late to ask for forgiveness. And I know we see that played on in movies and everywhere else where, somebody's dying and on their bucket list they have, I should ask this person for forgiveness, or I should, I go visit some old girlfriend or some old boyfriends and ask them to forgive me for what I did, and so on before they died. And I think it's very, very relevant today, as it has been there, to ask for forgiveness or to reach out to somebody and let them know you've forgiven them. I hope this is very educational to you. It is the last lesson in Genesis. Genesis was a powerball of lessons, and I am going to miss it, but we're going to be moving on into Exodus, and hopefully there are some really exciting lessons there for us. Genesis, we touched on everything, including business and government and strong assets. So I hope this was a good lesson. I mean, a good study session for you. Please go back. You can read from Genesis chapter 1 all the way to chapter 50. See what else you can pick up. From my count, we got 90 lessons there, but you may have gotten more. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And these lessons are for everyday living. They're roadmaps or guidelines to help you get through your day smoothly by God's grace. Please remember to invite God into your life today. Bye-bye now.